Have you ever noticed her? The woman who walks into a room and seems to alter its energetic frequency without saying a word. She is not necessarily the loudest, nor the most conventionally beautiful by the fleeting standards of magazines, nor the one adorned in the most expensive fashion. Yet, attention gravitates towards her not with the loud clang of a cymbal, but with the silent, irresistible pull of a tide. People seem to lean in, their conversations quieting for a moment, as if to catch a frequency she emits that exists just below the threshold of normal hearing. You've likely wondered what her secret is. Perhaps you've attributed it to some genetic lottery win, an unshakable confidence you assume she was born with, or a life free of the struggles that mark the rest of us. But the truth, the profound and somewhat unsettling truth, is that her magnetism has almost nothing to do with what she has, and everything to do with what she has survived. It is not a gift she was given, but a treasure she unearthed from the ruins of her own past. The common understanding of attraction, based on superficial metrics of youth and agreeableness, is a child's tale told to keep us asleep. The reality is far more complex, more psychological, and infinitely more powerful. What you are witnessing is not a social strategy. It is the quiet, formidable evidence of a soul that has undergone a radical transformation. This phenomenon, this quiet magnetism that seems to deepen in a woman after the age of 35, is not about finding the right anti-aging cream or mastering a new flirtation technique. It is a sign of something much deeper, something that can make the unconscious feel deeply uncomfortable. It is evidence of a completed psychological process, a journey the renowned psychologist Carl Jung termed individuation. Jung's work was not about fixing what is broken, but about integrating what is fragmented to become whole. He proposed that the human psyche strives for wholeness, an integration of our conscious and unconscious parts, our light and our shadow. The magnetic woman is one who has, consciously or unconsciously, embarked on this perilous quest. She has stopped trying to be good, and has instead chosen to be whole. Her power is not the aggressive, outward-thrusting power of conquest, but the gravitational power of a celestial body that has found its own center. It pulls things into its orbit not by effort, but by the sheer, unshakable fact of its own mass and presence. This is the mature feminine psyche in its fully realized form, not defined by age, but by the integration of wisdom, self-awareness, and a courageous acceptance of her own complexity. She has met her own shadow, that repository of all the things she was taught to deny about herself, her anger, her ambition, her wildness, her deep-seated need for solitude, and instead of slaying it, she has learned to dance with it. This integration is the source of her irresistible gravity. It is a state of being that cannot be faked, purchased, or taught in a weekend seminar. It must be earned, and the price is often everything she thought she was. To understand the woman she is, you must first understand the woman she had to let die. She was once a cartographer of other people's needs, meticulously mapping their desires while leaving her own inner world a vast, unexplored territory marked with "Here be dragons." She begged for love, not with words, but with her very being. She begged by making herself smaller, more agreeable, less demanding. She begged by accepting apologies that were never truly given and by offering forgiveness for wounds that were still bleeding. She believed that love was a transaction, a prize to be won through endless self-sacrifice. She loved until she lost herself, pouring her essence into cracked vessels, men who were themselves fragmented, who mistook her depth for a resource to be plundered. She was a connoisseur of potential, falling in love not with the man in front of her, but with the man she hoped he could become with her guidance, with her devotion, with her light. She confused attachment with love, anxiety with passion, and the exhausting drama of a toxic cycle with the proof of a grand romance. In those days, her loneliness was a roaring beast she would do anything to escape, so she settled for the illusion of companionship, for the warmth of a body next to hers, even if the soul within it was 1,000 miles away. She was a half, desperately, frantically, searching for another half, believing the myth that wholeness could be found in the arms of another. The relationships she endured were not mere mistakes. They were a curriculum. Each one was a lesson from her own soul, delivered by a teacher she had unconsciously hired. She was drawn to the same archetypal partner, again and again, a man who mirrored her own lack of inner cohesion. There was the emotionally unavailable man, a fortress of solitude whose walls she believed her love alone could breach. His silence was a challenge, his distance a puzzle she was determined to solve, never realizing that his unavailability was not a wound for her to heal, but a boundary she was meant to respect. She heard the phrase, "You have to accept me as I am," and interpreted it as a noble call for unconditional love, failing to see it for what it was. A refusal to grow, a declaration of stagnation disguised as self-acceptance. Then there was the projector, the man who painted his own demons onto her canvas. He would say things like, "All my exes were crazy," a red flag she once saw as a sign of his own victimhood, a testament to how deeply he had been wronged. Only later, in the clarity of her own awakening, did she understand the chilling truth. When a person claims everyone else was the problem, the common denominator is them. He fed on her insecurity, his subtle criticisms and backhanded compliments designed to keep her perpetually off balance. Always striving for an approval he would dangle like a carrot, but never fully grant. The passive-aggressive comments, like, "Do whatever you want," were not permissions for freedom, but tests of loyalty, designed to make her feel guilty for having needs of her own. These were not relationships. They were feedback loops, toxic scripts that repeated until the pain of staying became greater than the fear of leaving. The transformation was not a singular, cinematic event. There was no lightning strike, no sudden epiphany in the pouring rain. It was a slow, grueling process of disillusionment. The turning point arrived not as a climax, but as an exhaustion so profound it felt like a death. It was the moment when the thousandth disappointment no longer felt like a heartbreak, but like a statistic. The pain stopped being a personal affront and became impersonal data, pointing to a single, undeniable conclusion. The pattern was not out there, it was in her. This was her descent into the underworld, her personal dark night of the soul. It was the moment she stopped running from the roaring beast of her loneliness and turned to face it. She descended into the hell of her own story, not to stay there, but to retrieve the parts of herself she had abandoned. It was here, in the silent darkness, that she began the alchemical work of turning lead into gold, of transmuting pain into power. The rock bottom she had so feared became the solid ground upon which she would rebuild her entire world, piece by piece, this time on a foundation of her own making. The awakening was the terrifying, liberating realization that no one was coming to save her. And in that realization, she found her sword. Her inner work was the most difficult labor of her life. It was a private war waged in the quiet hours of the night, with no audience and no applause. She stopped turning her gaze outward for answers and began the terrifying and sacred work of looking within. She became an archaeologist of her own psyche, digging through layers of conditioning, family trauma, and cultural expectations to find the bedrock of her own truth. She learned to nourish herself with silence, to sit in the discomfort of her own company until it was no longer discomfort, but a sanctuary. She broke generational cycles, refusing to pass down the inheritance of unhealed wounds. She made a pact with herself, a holy vow whispered into the darkness. She would never again betray her own soul for the sake of companionship. Never again would she accept crumbs and call it a feast. She began to parent her own inner child, giving her the unconditional love and safety she had once sought from others. This was the true meaning of individuation in practice. She was gathering the scattered parts of her identity, the performer, the people-pleaser, the victim, and integrating them under the leadership of a new, sovereign self. She was no longer a half-seeking completion. She was a universe unto herself, learning the laws of her own gravity. From this crucible of transformation, a new woman emerges, and her presence is defined by a series of subtle but potent habits. These are not rules she follows, but principles that emanate from her very core. The first and most fundamental habit is this: she masters the art of sacred solitude. For the woman she used to be, solitude was a punishment, a sign of failure and undesirability. For the woman she is now, it is a sacrament. It is a deliberate, conscious choice to retreat from the noise of the world to commune with her own soul. It is in this sacred space that she hears her own voice, untangles her feelings from the feelings of others, and recharges her energetic reserves. Because she does not fear being alone, her presence with others becomes a conscious gift rather than a desperate need. She socializes not to escape herself, but to share the overflow of a cup that is already full. This makes her company profoundly calming and deeply desirable. People feel her centeredness, her lack of agenda, and it allows them to be more fully themselves. She does not drain energy from the room. She contributes a stable, grounding frequency to it, and this alone is magnetic. The second habit is that she speaks a language of radical honesty, tempered with wisdom. The old her spoke in hints, in subtleties, in the coded language of passive aggression, hoping others would magically intuit her needs. She was afraid that stating her truth directly would lead to conflict or abandonment. The individuated woman understands that unclear communication is a form of self-betrayal. She now practices a radical honesty, first and foremost with herself. She no longer pretends to be okay when she is not. She no longer says yes when her soul is screaming no. When she communicates with others, her words are clear, calm, and direct. She can say, "That does not work for me," or "I need space," without anger or apology. But this is not the brutal, weaponized honesty of the immature. It is honesty tempered with deep wisdom. She knows that not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every battle needs to be fought. She has the discernment to know when silence is the most powerful response. This clarity is disarming. In a world of games and hidden meanings, her directness cuts through the noise like a laser. It builds trust and forces a level of authenticity from those she interacts with, filtering out those who cannot operate without the fog of manipulation. Her third habit is the cultivation of an aura of non-needy presence. Neediness is a repellent. It is the energetic posture of leaning forward, of trying to extract something from another person: validation, approval, attention, a sense of worth. The woman she has become leans back, not in a calculated, game-playing way, but as a natural state of being. Her energy is contained within her own vessel. She enters a conversation not wondering, "What do they think of me?" but with a quiet curiosity of, "Who is this person in front of me?" She holds her own center. She doesn't fidget for approval or laugh too loudly at jokes that are not funny. She is present, listening, observing. Her stillness is a form of power. Because she is not trying to get anything from you, her presence becomes a space where you can simply be. This lack of demand is paradoxically the most attractive quality of all. It communicates on a primal level that she is whole, that she is a source of her own validation. People are instinctively drawn to this energy, like plants turning toward a source of stable, consistent light, not the flickering, demanding strobe of a needy ego. Fourth, and this is a practice that requires immense discipline, she relinquishes the need for control. The woman she once was believed her happiness depended on her ability to manage outcomes, to influence other people's feelings, and to orchestrate her life like a theatrical production. This constant effort to control the uncontrollable was the source of her deepest anxiety. The awakened woman has had a profound spiritual insight. The only thing she can truly control is her own inner state. She has surrendered the exhausting illusion that she can control how others perceive her, whether they love her or how they will behave. This is not apathy. It is the highest form of self-mastery. She focuses her energy like a laser beam on her own integrity, her own responses, her own peace. If someone misunderstands her, she does not launch a frantic campaign to correct their perception. She allows them their interpretation, knowing that it is a reflection of them, not her. By letting go of the desperate grip on the external world, she gains an unshakable dominion over her internal one. This generates a profound and palpable peace, a calm that radiates from her and makes her a haven in a chaotic world. This peace is far more magnetic than any fleeting success in controlling an outcome. The fifth habit, which becomes an unconscious and effortless practice, is that she curates her energy with ruthless selectivity. She has come to understand that her time, her focus, and her emotional bandwidth are her most sacred and finite resources. She no longer gives them away as if they were infinite. She has become a masterful gatekeeper of her own energy. She does not attend every argument she is invited to. She does not engage in gossip that lowers her vibration. She is exquisitely selective about who she allows into her inner circle. Her no is no longer a prelude to a negotiation or a long-winded justification. It is a complete and peaceful sentence. This is not born of arrogance, but of a deep self-respect. Because she values her own energy so highly, she has more quality energy to give to the people, projects, and passions that truly matter. This selectivity makes her, yes, incredibly powerful. When she chooses to give you her time and attention, it feels like a genuine investment, a true gift, because it is. This careful curation of her life creates a reality that is aligned with her soul, and the harmony of that alignment is a powerful, attractive force. Stay with this for a moment because the sixth habit is perhaps the most powerful and the most misunderstood. She listens more than she speaks. In a world obsessed with self-expression, with broadcasting one's opinions and curating a personal brand, she has discovered the immense power of receptive silence. Her listening is not the passive silence of someone waiting for their turn to talk. It is an active, engaged, and deeply intentional act. When she listens, she is not just hearing words. She is sensing the emotions behind them, the intentions beneath them, the truths the speaker is not even consciously aware of. She makes people feel seen and heard on a soul level, which is the deepest human craving of all. This practice gives her an incredible advantage. While others are busy talking, revealing their strategies, their insecurities, and their agendas, she is gathering information, discerning character, and understanding the true dynamics of a situation. Her silence is not emptiness. It is a full, resonant presence. It makes others feel important and safe, causing them to reveal their authentic selves. And in doing so, they often find themselves more attracted to her, not because of what she said, but because of how she made them feel about themselves in her presence. Her wisdom is demonstrated not by the brilliance of her monologues, but by the profundity of her questions and the depth of her listening. Finally, the seventh habit is the culmination of all the others. She embodies her worth. She does not announce it. The journey of individuation has led her to a state of being where her value is not a concept she needs to convince herself or others of. It is a cellular reality. Her confidence is not a loud, performative proclamation. It is not found in a list of her accomplishments, the brands she wears, or the number of followers she has. It is in the way she holds her body, relaxed but upright. It is in her gaze, direct, calm, and unwavering. It is in the steady, even rhythm of her breathing. She does not walk into a room thinking, "I hope they like me." She walks in with the quiet certainty of her own right to exist, to take up space. She has relinquished the adolescent need to be seen as the prize. The very concept of being a prize implies a competition, a game she is no longer interested in playing. She is not the prize. She is the entire playing field. This embodied self-worth is perhaps the most potent magnetic force of all because it is unassailable. It cannot be diminished by someone's criticism or inflated by their praise. It simply is. It is the final, irrefutable signal that she is sovereign, whole, and complete unto herself. The way the world perceives this woman is a perfect litmus test for its own level of consciousness. She becomes a mirror. To those who are secure, whole, and on their own path of growth, she is a source of profound inspiration, a confirmation of what is possible. They are not intimidated. They are intrigued and drawn to her as a peer. But to the insecure, the manipulative, and those who thrive on the familiar power dynamics of control and codependency, she is a terrifying anomaly. Her wholeness is a threat. Her peace shatters the logic of their games. Her refusal to need them exposes the emptiness of their own offerings. They will project their own shadows onto her, calling her intimidating, arrogant, cold, or the classic, too picky. These labels are not descriptions of her. They are confessions from them. They are the flailing attempts of a dying paradigm to pathologize a woman who simply refuses to participate in her own diminishment. Her self-sufficiency is threatening to a system that profits from female insecurity. Her solitude is a rebellion against a culture that preaches that a woman's only happily ever after exists in a pair. She is dangerous not because she is aggressive, but because she is free. She meets these projections not with defense, but with an almost ironic, knowing smile. She has heard it all before, first from the critical voices inside her own head, which she has long since learned to disarm. She understands that when someone says, "You're too picky," what they often mean is, "Your standards make me uncomfortable because they require me to be a better version of myself." She no longer internalizes the world's panicked attempts to put her back in a box she has outgrown. She has defied the unspoken rule that a woman's value, power, and desirability must inevitably decline after a certain age. She has discovered the opposite to be true. She has found that while the superficial appeal of youth may fade, it is replaced by something far more enduring and potent: the magnetism of character, the allure of wisdom, the undeniable gravity of a soul that knows its own worth. She is living proof that a woman's second act is not a quiet fading, but a brilliant, blazing emergence into her true power. She is writing her own mythology, and in her story, the dragon is not a beast to be slain by a knight, but a powerful ally she has learned to ride. In the end, the irresistible magnetism of the individuated woman is the fragrance of a soul that has come home to itself. It is not a tactic for attracting a partner. It is the natural consequence of becoming one. It is the radiant overflow of a life lived in alignment with its own deepest truth. And should she choose to enter a relationship now, it will be on entirely new terms. The love that comes will not be a desperate act of salvation, but a conscious act of celebration. It will not be the merging of two halves to make a whole, but the meeting of two whole individuals choosing to share their light without fear of being extinguished. It will be a partnership founded not on need, but on resonance. Not on control, but on freedom. Not on filling a void, but on sharing a plenitude. Her journey was never about becoming more attractive to others. It was always about becoming more true to herself. The magnetism was simply a beautiful, inevitable side effect of finally, courageously, and completely falling in love with the woman she was always meant to be. If something inside you was stirred by this description, if a quiet voice in the back of your mind whispered, "I know her," or "I want to be her," understand that this is no accident. Perhaps this message did not find you by chance. It is the resonance of recognition. It is a call from your own future self, a whisper from the whole and integrated woman that resides within you, waiting to be unearthed. This journey is not for a chosen few. It is the archetypal birthright of every woman willing to undertake the sacred, terrifying, and ultimately liberating work of facing her own shadows and claiming her own sovereignty. The path is not easy, but the destination is not a place, but a state of being. A state of peace, of power, and of unshakable integrity. It is the promise of never losing yourself again. If the story touched a part of your own, I invite you to honor that connection. This is not just content. It is a frequency. By sharing this video, you are not just sharing a link. You are amplifying a message of empowerment for other women who may be standing at their own turning point, needing to hear that their pain is not an ending, but a beginning. Like this video not as a passive gesture, but as a conscious vote for a different kind of power. And comment below. Share which of these 7 habits resonated with you the most, not for validation, but to create a community of witness to this profound journey. Subscribe to this channel and choose to continue this conversation to keep this frequency alive in your life. Do it not out of impulse, but out of choice. The same kind of conscious choice the woman we spoke of today makes in every aspect of her magnificent life.